Powered by the Montana Television Network. The Q2 530 News starts right now in high definition.
I wonder what the forefathers would think today if they saw this body, a shell of its former self.
The government shutdown creating its own wall, dividing the nation.
And the call for a resolution growing louder on Capitol Hill.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Janelle Slade. The government shutdown and the president's border wall topping the news tonight.
Here in Montana, Senator Scott Sayles' proposal to send $8 million of Montana money to fund the border wall, drawing ire from Governor Steve Bullock. Now, previously, Sayles acknowledged that Governor Bullock might not agree and could veto the measure, but said it's still something that he wants to pursue.
And today, Governor Bullock, a Democrat, made it clear he is not on board for spending state money on a border wall. Bullock told reporters at the Capitol he has plenty of respect for Senator Sayles and complimented him for running the Senate with great integrity and transparency. But he said it's puzzling that Sayles would propose spending state money on a construction project in California when he rarely supported infrastructure investments here in Montana.
Sayles, a Republican from Bozeman, told MTN News Wednesday he believes Montanans support the president's proposed border wall. He said $8 million would just be Montana's tiny share of the cost to help get the project going and maybe break a stalemate that has shut down the federal government. Bullock, however, said $8 million can do a lot of good if it stays here in Montana.
$8 million is significant. $8 million is a third of the costs of what the state share of Medicaid will be. $8 million can do incredible work for local infrastructure in communities all across our state. So I don't think that it makes a lot of sense to use Montana taxpayer dollars on federal projects.
And Sayles' proposal has not yet been introduced.
And today, on day 20 of the partial government shutdown, Senator Jon Tester took to the Senate floor. Tester joining a number of other senators facing off against Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, who refuses to hold a vote on any legislation that doesn't fall in line with what the president wants.
Bring the bills to the floor to open this government and vote on them. If they go down, they go down. I think they'll pass. If the president vetoes them, bring them back for a veto override. It is as simple as that. And I ask, is this how you make America great again? Is this how it's done? Because it's not working. But I take an oath of office to protect this country first, and we're turning our back on this country.
Also in the Senate, Republican Senator Steve Daines introduced legislation today called the No Work, No Pay Act. It would require all members of Congress to withhold their pay during a government shutdown until it reopens. Now, this follows a number of lawmakers, including Daines and Representative Greg Gianforte, announcing they would decline pay during the shutdown.
In Montana and across our country, folks are suffering at the expense of the political games being played in Washington, D.C. You know, it's simple. It is the fundamental role of Congress to fund the government, and until that happens, they shouldn't get paid.
Newly sworn in North Dakota Republican Senator Kevin Cramer reacted last week to this idea, saying the acts by the other members of Congress to not take their pay are, quote, gimmicky. Now, tomorrow, the shutdown will tie with President Bill Clinton's 1995-96 shutdown as the longest in U.S. history at 21 days.
Billings has a lot of changes on the horizon with the One Big Sky District, a bustling West End that continues to grow, and a crime rate that has kept our officers busy. Now, recently, the Billings City Council welcomed a new city administrator. Chris Kukalski comes to us from Bozeman and tells Q2 News, while he's still trying to find his footing, he has a lot of excitement and ideas for the future of Billings.
It's been fantastic. I've just started in mid-November and just been trying to soak in and absorb as much information as I can. My father worked at General Motors on the factory line, and I know how important jobs are. And so to me, One Big Sky is, instead of me coming in and trying to encourage people that we need to find a way to have this conversation, it was already happening before I got here. And I think we're presenting a plan that can not only be used for the business center of Montana here in Billings, but ultimately can help other communities in Montana grow their economy. And the opportunities really are diverse. And I think for us, how we serve all of our citizens is critically important. And so to me, we need 115,000 citizens of Billings to be engaged, paying attention, communicating with one another and with us to help all of us work together to improve the safety and security of our community. Mm-hmm. I'm excited because the community, I hear them saying, we understand that we need to step up our game in the quality of the built environment and in our parks and our trails and our amenities that make someone choose to stay or choose to relocate here. I just can't express enough my appreciation for the opportunity, and I'm just really excited about the future and the team of people we're getting to work with both internally as well as out in the community just to make Billings an even greater place.
And you can see the full interview with Billings City Administrator Chris Kukalski on our website, ktvq.com.
Well, the century-old St. Francis School building in downtown Billings will likely have a new owner and some change in store.
Harrison Fagg, who developed the Granite Tower across the street, and his son Russ, who's a former Billings district judge, plan to purchase that building.
Q2's Samantha Sullivan spoke with Russ today about their plans. Sammy.
Well, Russ and Janelle, Russ Fagg told me today there's a lot of history and a lot of memories in the walls of the old St. Francis School building, which is why he plans to keep it as is. Despite needing a few updates and repairs on the exterior, they don't plan on changing a thing to the building. The plan is to lease the rooms inside as office space, but Fagg says they are also open to buyers if someone was interested in owning some space inside.
Well, the building's 100 years old, and we think it's a really nice looking building. It's a really solid building. There's not a crack in the foundation, and so God willing, we can have this building around for another 100 or 200 years.
Now, as for the rest of the half-a-block lot, Fagg says their initial ideas include either condos or apartments with underground parking. Russ and Janelle.
All right. Thanks so much, Sammy.
Democrats at the Montana legislature said Thursday they'll be sponsoring their own bill to extend Montana's Medicaid expansion program.
They made the announcement at a Capitol News conference and said putting the bill together will be a group effort. Representative Mary Cafaro of Helena said she will request the bill, which will extend Medicaid expansion indefinitely. The program that provides government-funded health coverage to about 95,000 low-income adults is set to expire in June. Republicans who control the legislature say they'll likely support extending the program.
But they also want to add some reforms and target the program more at the truly needy, they say. GOP Representative Ed Buttry of Great Falls said this week he's working on a bill that will extend and reform the program. Cafaro said expanded Medicaid has been a smashing success in Montana, and the Democrats want to craft a bill that will extend and improve the program. The fate of Medicaid expansion likely one of the biggest issues before the 2019 legislature, if not the biggest.
A one-time federal agent here in Billings is indicted on child pornography charges. 48-year-old Sean Conrad is charged with sexual exploitation of a child and possession of child pornography. In August, Conrad allegedly coerced or attempted to entice a minor to engage in sexually explicit content. Now, court documents state Conrad did this for the purpose of producing visual depiction of such content. Conrad was employed as a special agent with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in the Billings region, but it's unclear whether or not he was employed here at the time of the incident or if he is still employed in this region. If convicted, Conrad faces a minimum of 15 years, but up to 50 years in prison.
Northern Cheyenne tribal members are voting for a new president and a new vice president in a special election. Jerry Small and Rhinela Whiteman Pena are the choices for president after the December 11th primary. The top two for vice president are Terry Beartusk and Winfield Russell. The winners will fill the seats left by Jace Kilsback, who resigned as president in October, and Conrad Fisher, who resigned as vice president. Kilsback stated in a letter that he resigned because of clashes with the legislative branch. Fisher cited health reasons for his resignation. The winners will serve out the terms which expire in November of 2020. The polls close at 7 tonight.
Coming up on tonight's 5:30 News, it's hard to have much of a sense of security when one of the biggest scams targets your social security. We'll take a look.
And in sports, Scott hears from the former Billings Outlaws quarterback, just named the new head coach of the Green Bay Packers.
And coming up in weather, with a mild spell on its way, it might not be a bad idea to maybe visit a car wash. We'll tell you how long the warm-up will last in a few more minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Janelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 5:30 news on Q2, Montana's news leader.